everybody, this is Alex at Kentucky Gun Company Louisville. Just want to highlight a couple of the really cool things that I personally really like here in the Louisville store. If you've come in before, you've probably dealt with me if you've wanted to talk about suppressors or any sort of NFA items. While I could talk about pretty much everything in this case at length, and I would have a great time doing it, it'd probably be a really long video and we don't really necessarily have time for that. But I wanted to highlight one of my favorites because it's a really weird one and probably talk a little bit too much about it, honestly. This is the B&T Station 6. It is pretty unique. It is a bolt action 45 ACP integrally suppressed pistol. And while that's weird, it's actually not necessarily that new. B&T out of Switzerland, they based this around what's known as the Welrod from World War II. It was, for lack of a better term, a spy pistol. The original one was meant to be broken down and look like a bike pump, just in case OSS operators or resistance behind German lines ever got caught with it. It wouldn't look like a handgun necessarily. The cool thing about it being a bolt action is all of the gas that is in the cartridge is going to get captured by the suppressor and not pop at the chamber. So maximum suppression. And even cooler than that, and this is where it gets a little weird, is the B&T Station 6 does the same thing that the Welrod did with a wipe inside of the can. What that is basically is a rubber washer that as you shoot, it closes behind the bullet and traps all of that gas, thus trapping all of the sound. Now that is a part that will degrade as you shoot, so the drawback to the Station 6 and the Welrod in that matter is that once you shoot through the wipe, it's not really usable anymore. It'll still suppress, but not necessarily as well. And I've had a lot of people ask me, why would I pay all of that money and wait all of that time to get a suppressor that would degrade as soon as I start shooting it and would be almost useless? And this is where the B&T differs a lot from the original Welrod from back in the day, is you can actually take the suppressor off and you'll see that there are these standard threads underneath. So you can attach whatever sort of 45 ACP can you want to it. That way you can shoot it all you want, it'll suppress, and then you can save your special can for special occasions. The tricky part is just getting it back on because there's just the blank threads. There we go. Runs on standard 1911 45 magazines, and the bolt is just the back of the receiver right there. And you'll see you've got almost a Glock style of sight on there, so if you're used to those, you'd be used to these. The Station 6 wasn't necessarily their first iteration of the gun brought back. It was actually called the VP9, the Veterinarian's Pistol 9, before it was imported to the US and brought onto the commercial market. Essentially, B&T made it, and this is what they say, not me, for veterinarians to humanely put down animals and not disturb a clinic, which, yeah, totally. Sounds absolutely true to me. Definitely didn't go to spies around the world. So that's just one of the really cool guns that I think is definitely worth highlighting. We don't get a whole lot of these in. We've already sold a couple of them, and I think this may be the last one that we have. I'd have to check. But when it comes to the NFA, whether it be short barrel rifles, suppressors, you name it, if you're a really big just gun person in general or want things that not necessarily everybody else has, you're gonna have to start dipping your toes into the NFA and looking at suppressors and short barrel rifles and just really unique things like that. Of course, that is gonna include a tax stamp and doing all the registration, which we can help you with here. If you have any questions, come on in, talk to me or a couple of the other retail associates here. We will be more than happy to help you out and get you started on your way to being a little bit more comfortable filing paperwork with the NFA and getting some really cool items that maybe not everybody else has.